Welcome back to History Below the Pines, Episode 3, Season 1. Today we take you to a 1900s mining town. The buildings you see is part of the original main street of what is left of the town. So behind this door is the original assay office, and the office has now been turned into what is a tiny living quarters for a resort that owns the town now. For those of you who do not know, the assay office was used to test the purity of the metals that came out of the mine. We will say the owners picked out great furniture. It happens to match the history period. Behind this door was some newer renovations that was not historic to the town. It was a shower house and bathroom for the resort. These buildings were original, and they were built in the early 1900s. This once historic mining camp has now been turned into a wheelchair and handicap-friendly area, and this was all because of a man by the name of Dallas Dietrich. This part of town is all original. The buildings you are looking at are the original bunkhouse and cookhouse for the mining camp. We were fortunate enough to be able to tour the original bunkhouse to the property, and it has a lot of history. It was cool to just stand inside that building and think if only the walls could talk. You wonder what they would say. The caretaker explained to us that upstairs is very historical.
So back in the day, this was a brothel.
Oh, okay. I suppose every gold town needs one.
Yeah,
at least
you gotta
one.
have something for the miners to do.
So this is what a 1900s brothel room would have looked like. The caretaker Vern explained to us that this brothel had a single madam who would service the entire brothel. This room was the parlor where the men would sit and wait. We were told they had a door system where they would drop a flag through the floor to alert the next customer that it was their turn. The caretaker Vern explained to us that this was the cellar where they would keep the canned goods for the cookhouse. We were told that this is one of the more intact historical mining camps in the Black Hills to date. Another historic structure coming into view was the mine supervisor's cabin. We were told that this town was part of the 1800s tin hoax, and this is a prime example of what a tin mine community would have looked like. The only people making money were the investors. Outside of the town, mining cars dotted the landscape. However, these were not original to the town, but still cool to see. What you are about to see is one of the original mine portals.
Now,
This is why I knew I was going to need
let me
this.
tell you a little bit about this. This was more of an exploratory tunnel
Okay.
to see what they would find. The real mine we're going to go to afterwards. But this one, well, you'll see where they quit. And it's anybody's guess why they quit right there.
Right.
I think they just ran out of money.
That's usually what it was, isn't
Yeah.
it?
The caretaker explained to us as we adventured further into the mine shaft that a big mineral in this mine was gypsum, and that they used that to make sheetrock. The caretaker explained earlier on in the video that this is an exploratory shaft, And what that means is that they were looking to see if this would be profitable. A lot of these mines had deeper levels in them. This mine in particular had a few different levels. What you see here is a boarded up level. As we continued deeper on into the mine, we came across a Y, and we took the left side of that Y and continued forward. On the other side of this wooden railing was where the hoist used to sit to take miners down into the deeper levels.
You see that wheel right there?
Yeah.
It's a cable winch. And that was probably driven by miniature mules, miniature horses, something that would fit back in here. And then
Did they go in circles? How did they do that?
you see that box right there? That once was a box, an ore box. Well, the first trip down, the ore box would go in and probably had a couple of miners in it. And then they would spend the day down there loading that ore box full of ore. And then the guys up here would drag it up and dump it out.
Down, up and down, up
Yep.
and down.
You know, being down in this mine was like being in a living museum. It was so cool to see the history.
Oh, but I think it hauled a couple miners down that hole first.
Right.
And they would get out and fill the box, and then it would come up.
But you think this was powered by
Or I'm sure.
It's
I'm
geared.
sure later on, it was powered somehow.
Right.
As we got down further into the mine, everything got more interesting by the second. The caretaker pointed out that these cave paintings are not real. They are only a prop for a movie that was actually filmed down inside of this mine shaft at one point in time. The caretaker, Vern, went on to explain to us that the movie was about a monster that basically went on to terrorize the village people in this town. The movie never got off the ground, but it was super interesting to hear about it. You know, this mine may not be rich in ore deposits anymore, but it's sure rich in history. And it was really, really neat to hear all the history and the facts and the stories from this mine.
More to look at.
Shorter miners. Oh.
So behind that wall is what's left. Shit, but
Well, it could still go.
it could still go.
Because it's got, what do you call it? When it sweats, it turns.
Yeah, true.
So those crystals, if you were to smack them, could end up being the last thing you ever smacked.
Could be. And that used to just be sitting over there next to that wheel. And we walked by it for years. And
Didn't know what it
school
was.
mining guys saw it and said,
Oh, stop!
we need to do something with that.
It's an impressive looking gate too.
Yeah, we didn't want.
As we made our way out of the mine shaft, Vern continued telling us some really interesting stories about the mine, and some things are just meant to be kept secret. As we exited, the caretaker Vern took us over to show us the remains of the Chilean mill, or what is left of it today. Unfortunately, as you can see, everything has been pretty much either burned down or moved on to different mines around the area. He spoke about a historic fire that happened inside of the mine early 1900s, circa. This picture shows what the mill used to look like. As of 2022, this is what remains of the historic Chilean mill that once sat at this mine. Vern talks about how it was hydro-powered, and how there's some rock crushers nearby in the trees that he believes were connected to the mill at one point in time. We did some research on the Chilean mill, and it's pretty historic. This was a method that was used in the early mining days, and what you see right there was part of the wheel. For the final part of the tour, Vern, the caretaker, took us to the former lumber mill. This is what's left of it today, just a few metal parts and some grass. As we were about to exit the property, I asked Vern about this, and there's actually a vertical shaft under this piece of metal. A special thank you goes out to the Dietrich family for having us on your property, and what Dallas did here is truly beautiful.